This is the Hoka One One Clifton 8. It's a daily trainer with a die-hard following. But can this year's updates build on the momentum of the past couple of years? It's time to lace up the Clifton 8 and put them to the test. 10.60 miles, 8 minutes, 44 seconds per mile, 143 beats per minute today. Going for an easy run with some strides in the Hoka Clifton 8. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe after just the first run, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me by Hoka for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Hoka Clifton 8. First, let's go over some specs. In the heel, we've got 29 millimeters of stack height with the standard Clifton 5 millimeter drop, giving us 24 millimeters of EVA midsole foam. Moving to the outsole, we've got an updated pattern that's similar to what we've seen in previous years, but it seems to be a little bit more streamlined. There's just a little bit less rubber on the outsole, and the whole thing seems to be a little bit more stretched out. In previous years, it kind of looked like a trail shoe just adapted for the road. This year, it looks more like it was built with road shoe intention. It's a subtle difference, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing on the outsole. Up top on the upper, we've got a mesh material that's nice and breathable. There's a little bit more padding on the tongue this year than I remember in last year. I'm a little concerned that it might be a little bit hot for summertime. There's just a lot of padding and puffiness in that tongue. So those of you who are looking for that are going to be really happy. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of super padded tongues. Then on the rest of the heel collar, the other parts that are going to be touching your ankle bone and your heel, there is a moderate amount of padding leading into this heel flare. Then as we get towards the heel cup, there's quite a bit of structure back here to keep everything locked down and stable and in place. This entire package comes in at a total weight of 8.8 ounces or 250 grams. So now that we've talked about the specs, what is it like to run in this shoe? I think the best way that I can describe, or like the most concise way that I can describe the Clifton, is that it's a cushion but quick shoe. It's cushioned in that it feels soft and it soaks up a lot of miles. There's an ortholite insert in there, so you've got definitely a lot of step-in comfort. So it's a comfortable shoe, but it's still very quick. This is definitely a shoe that is not going to be afraid to take on your longest runs either, because it has that comfort in there, because it has that softness in it. It's definitely going to be a contender for your longest runs. And for a lot of you, this might be your choice when it comes to running a marathon, because I do think that the foam that's in here does a great job of holding up against the impact of all those road miles. And the exact level of effort that this shoe loves to be at is either easy paces like you would for your long runs, or moderate paces even up to marathon pace. I think it does really great. I think that's the sweet spot for this shoe. Now, I went a little bit faster than those paces as well, just to put the shoe through its paces. And so the strides that I had today, I was trying to run those at something closer towards a mile pace type of effort, even though I was doing that for only very short bursts. And I will say that for those very fast efforts, I didn't love the Clifton 8. I just feel like at that point, like the squishiness, the softness of that shoe makes it a little bit harder to really pick up the pace. You can get there. The overall kind of like shape, geometry, and weight of the shoe, that's not holding you back. It just feels like it takes a little bit of extra effort because of the fact that there is a little bit of that softness to the midsole foam. So I didn't love it at, like, say, faster than 5K pace. But when I was at threshold pace or a little bit slower as I was like ramping up or ramping down as part of those strides, those felt a lot more comfortable. And I do feel like this shoe's sweet spot is going to be right around at that marathon pace, maybe a little bit slower than that. That's where it's going to do well. But overall, if you've got a marathon workout coming up this summer where you're doing threshold level efforts or anything slower than that, maybe you're doing some marathon pace miles or some half marathon pace miles, I think the Clifton 8 is going to be a really good companion for those types of workouts. as well as it's going to be able to handle your recovery runs and all your easy runs that you're just getting out there and getting those miles in. The Clifton 8 is going to help you get through those runs and log that weekly mileage. Overall, I think that the Clifton 8 still is a solid daily trainer. And for someone that's curious about Hoka, I think that this is probably the best Hoka to introduce someone to what Hoka is all about. There is something that I think that people definitely need to know about in terms of the Clifton 8 though, and that's with some of the changes to the upper. I mentioned that the whole shoe feels kind of just streamlined from front to back. Yeah, I see it on the outsole. It just seems like it's stretched kind of like longitudinally a little bit. It just seems like it's a little bit more narrow in the foot generally, both in the forefoot as well as in the midfoot and the heel. I also feel like that narrowness extends to the upper as well. So something that I've noticed has been a change over the years from the 6 to the 7 and now to the 8 is that what used to be somewhat of a wide foot friendly shoe now is just feels like a regularly snug daily trainer fit to me. I also feel like the rocker I would normally associate with Cliftons isn't really in here. Like I'm not feeling that early stage meta rocker that used to be such a signature component of this shoe. I still feel it, but it's not quite as early. It's not quite as an aggressive feeling in the shoe. Maybe I'm just really used to it by now, or maybe it's because I'm also seeing it in lots of other brands as well. I'm just not noticing it as much anymore, but it just doesn't seem as prominent to me. And so a lot of some of that like old school Hoka-ness, the wider toe box, the really aggressive early meta rocker, a lot of those things seem to be kind of like being transitioned away from. I ultimately like the transition. I like the direction that it's going. For me, it feels like an everyday shoe that I can take on a variety of different types of runs. Whereas I feel like some of the earlier versions of the Cliftons maybe were a little bit more specialized. I think for a lot of you, it's going to be the shoe that gets you through those summer miles, gets you through those high mileage weeks for all your marathon training blocks. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this shoe. I'm pretty excited about it. And I feel like I'm going to get to 100 miles in this pretty soon. But many of you are probably also wondering, how does this shoe stack up against other shoes like the Rincon or the Mach 4 or the Carbon X2? Those videos will be coming out in the next couple of weeks as I get to put more time into those other shoes as well as into the Clifton 8. And if you hit the subscribe button, you'll know right away when those videos release. If you have any other questions about the Clifton right now, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to talk to you down there. Or better yet, feel free to stop by the live stream that I do just about every day on YouTube. And I'd love to interact with you in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?